Mike Danger.
Look at you. You can tell it's trivia night tonight. Gene is just a wealth of knowledge, just a treasure trove of knowledge in preparation for trivia tonight. Are you accepting any team names? Will the Leo Shufflers be in attendance tonight at trivia night?
Gene Battaglia.
It's okay for us as sports fans. You don't have to die on the hill. You can say, hey, I was wrong about this. And this is what makes it entertaining. Now, maybe I'll be wrong again.
Mets closer Edwin Diaz was ejected last night on Sunday Night Baseball. Diaz had illegal substance on his hand, and Diaz is also going to get a 10-game suspension.
This is sweat and rosin.
Scotty Scheffler beat Tom Kim in a playoff to win the Travelers.
We've got a whole group of protesters here.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Hope you're still enjoying us. You are in the sports bar. Give us a call at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Danger's out today. Gene Battaglia, and we'll have a lot of friends, and certainly a guy who does not get enough credit, I should say, for keeping us on the straight and narrow. Alongside today, the Dan DeLorean. Dan DeLorean, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Gino. How you doing?
I'm excited. I'm excited about tonight, and you are a sports fan that's normally reserved. Before we get into that, let's set you up for the show here today. And again, Danger will be back tomorrow. This is the time of year we take a few days, and Danger went to some sports collectible show over the weekend in Virginia with one of his neighbors, Tony. It's not a joke. The guy's name is actually Tony. And Friday night, my son's high school graduation, Spencerport. We were at the Cirque, in Brockport there.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're doing it. And I get a text from Danger. I'm thinking, oh, he must know, like, this is a big family event. No. He sees a throwback Buffalo Bills helmet autographed by one O.J. Simpson.
Oh, boy.
You're not spending any money on that. Then, okay. And I'm not telling him where I am, by the way. I'm not saying, hey, family event. And I'd like to turn my cell phone off. I probably should have at this point, but I want to take photos. I want to kind of log the moment. So Danger then, and you know what's going to play tomorrow, the juice thing.
I want to play right now.
Okay, I'm going to hold this up here for everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch. Okay, I'm hoping that I don't think that this photo will come up here. No, it's too much shine here. But I'm going to hold it up to Dan DeLorean. Okay. This is a photograph. The one constant through all the years has been baseball. Signed by some actor named Brown who played John Kinsella, the father in Field of Dreams. Now, if you're a regular to the show, you know that's what Danger kind of mocks me and every other baseball fan, baseball writer, everything, like Field of Dreams. Oh, okay, it's the ultimate movie for people that have daddy issues, right? I'm going to, cut down my field, ruin my harvest, put my family on the brink of bankruptcy, all for this fantasy. This autograph picture by John Kinsella, who played the ghost, basically the dead. Dan, how much do you think this is going for at this show?
$200.
$300.
Okay.
Now maybe some collector can tell me: Are you allowed to haggle? Are you allowed to negotiate or is that bad form?
If you want to get a good deal, I would assume you want to get a deal. So
yeah,
I would say you do.
I would at least put it out there. Look, I'll give you $250. I'll give you $200. Like, I've only done a garage sale a couple times in my life, and not in years. And the reason for that is it's just a lot of work for not a lot of payoff. And one of the things, Dan, is that everybody haggles.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you know what? $5 for this. Would you take 3? Like, what is the point? Like, maybe we do like 2 days of work where you'd be able to buy a pizza with everything. Really getting off track. So Danger, I'm sure he will have stories at this place was Ray Lewis. So I have not talked to Danger other than us texting one another on Friday night while he was down at that show. We do have a great show lined up here today. As coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, you listen to our show, we take pride in the fact that you play fantasy football, and we are going to bring in experts, and very proud to have a relationship with Michael F. Florio. Michael F. Florio from NFL Network, NFL Fantasy. So you see him, you'll see him on those platforms coming up here. As to me, 4th of July means, ta-da, time to start learning and putting mock drafts in your head and thinking about value and sleepers and busts and all that stuff, we'll talk to Michael F. Florio. That's coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. A little bit later from now, we will be talking to Steve Bradley, who's coming into studio. Steve Bradley, now with Pick and Splinters, many years, the editor of the Democrat and Chronicle sports editor. And I think it'd just be a fun conversation. I got to know Steve a little bit last year calling some Section 5 games, and guy is sharp. And he's got a perspective about our town because, Dan, you know this. Like, it is great when the Blue Cross Arena sold out for a Mavericks playoff game. It is great when Garrett Cole comes to town and that is essentially sold out, innovative field. But have we kind of lost our identity a little bit as a sports town, or maybe as a town in general? How do we get that back? Or is this just the world we live in now that, hey, you want Major League this or that, you just a few clicks of your favorite team and I'll make a choice. But we'll talk to Steve Bradley here, and that'll be he's joining us in studio, which, okay, Derek was here. I was inviting Derek to stick around. He set up the third mic. So we do have the third mic all set up today. And again, time for your calls at 866-4326. So my son graduated from Spencerport. He for his Skills USA Wamoco, he's in Atlanta, Georgia today. So
nice.
Yeah, so the 3:30 was the alarm this morning.
Oh, boy.
You wouldn't think our airport at 4 o'clock in the morning would be busy, but it is on a Monday.
I mentioned it's 24/7, right?
Yeah, well, not 24/7. They put gates down.
Okay.
So now it's one of those deals where it's, like, okay, he's on the flight. So yesterday, graduation party, flight down there today. I'm dragging a little bit today, so I drank a lot of coffee. I'm really caffeinated here, so we'll plow through this. And you know what, Dan? It is my hope. It's my hope that as hockey fans, tonight is a night we can remember, embrace, and maybe this will be a night we can all point to and say, hey, that actually grew the sport. Mm-hmm. Now, Dan, when it comes to your sports fandom, I think you're kind of reserved a little bit. Like, the Mets are on a winning streak. What's your level of excitement for tonight, Game 7?
I'm excited because it's obviously the Cup's going to finally be awarded. That's what I'm most excited, just to see the Cup. I really don't have a rooting interest for either side. I want to see a close, like a really good game. Like I want it to be tied going to the third. Maybe you get overtime. Maybe you get double overtime. I want to see just really close. Like I don't want to see 8-1.
See, now you're asking for a lot here.
I know.
And here's why. Here's why. Because like Game 7s, they don't happen that often. The last one we had was Blues over the Bruins. Mm-hmm. Overtime. You take a guess. You know the last time we had an overtime Game 7 in the Cup final
was that New Jersey, Dallas, New Jersey, Colorado.
No, it wasn't in your lifetime or mine. 1954.
Oh, I thought like Jason Arnott had maybe it wasn't a Game 7.
No,
okay.
No, 1954, if you can believe that.
Who were the combatants?
Detroit and Montreal.
Okay.
And I only know that because I read about it. So you're like, wow, that's really something. And I think hockey has this problem of being a little too insular, meaning, hey, it's kind of not open to outsiders. And part of that was the platforms they were on. Part of that was, well, there's a bunch of different reasons. But I think tonight is the opportunity that, hey, you've heard about Connor McDavid? Here he is, and a chance to win the Cup. And I'll say this. And look, with all respect, and it was fun to hear Brownie and Maddie go kind of off the beaten path there today. Like, it was not one Bills Live. It was one everything else kind of thing. And they were talking about, basically sports collapses. I would say this, that tonight, Florida loses. I'm sure down there they're going to be grumbling, right? I don't think we're going to view this through a lens like, wow, Florida really blew it. We're going to view this as, hey, this is Connor McDavid. This is like the best hockey player in the world, and look how he willed his team to a championship. I think that's the storyline tonight. And I'll even take it a step further, Dan. Say Edmonton loses. Is McDavid still the playoff, the Conn Smythe?
He should be, just based on all the records he's broken that were Gretzky's records. That alone should have given him the trophy. Now, you could even argue like a Zach Hyman, who's broken he had like 16 goals now, and he's broken, Crosby's record and Ovechkin's record. You could even argue Stuart Skinner, just the way he's played from games, 4 through now.
4 through now, but you can't, though. I mean, you can make those arguments, but I would submit this. Like, if it is a Florida convincing win tonight, but it comes under the context of, oh my gosh, Bobrovsky stood on his head in Game 7, made 50 saves, a 3-0 win. Maybe that's it. Or maybe Barkov reminds us that he's great too tonight. Now, I don't know if that that hit there from Draisaitl in Game 2 was it. I don't know if that took how much of an effect that took, but Barkov I could see. Anybody other than those three, but I'm putting McDavid. If it's tonight and it's a close game and it's a Florida win, but Edmonton doesn't get run out of the building, I'd still hand it to McDavid.
I might even argue maybe a Matthew Tkachuk, and he's kind of been under the radar, but I think he leads their team in points or maybe goals. He's up there for a stat. He was up there, Barkov was up there, but Bob was up there, obviously. But no, if anything, it probably should be McDavid.
Yeah. So again, our number 866-4FAN 866-4326. My disclaimer here, Dan, is I do not have X on my computer.
Twitter.
So, or
you mean Twitter?
You call it
Twitter. It is Twitter.
Did you?
It's still on my phone, Gino.
Get the heck out.
It's still. You want me to show you?
Yeah. All right. So this becomes the running joke every time that Danger's out. Dan will show me his phone. He's holding it up to the screen right now for those watching on YouTube and Twitch. And there it is. It's still the darn bird logo. Dan, that is not good for your phone.
It is, because I'm not switching over to X. And I know there was a listener who last time I filled in with you said he also didn't update his app. So, and I'm not going to do it.
Look, at least X kind of Twitter can be a nasty place. Twitter is somewhere I learned this from working alongside Breezy and Moose at PXY. They don't do an X because that's their generation. They don't.
Really?
They will not go on that.
Oh, so what are they on then?
Well, Insta.
Okay, so I don't have Instagram.
I don't. I have it there just to monitor my daughter, and that's about it.
I have no. I have Facebook and Twitter, and that's it. Sorry.
That's about it. Yeah, Twitter is we're the same there. We just kind of use it for information and everything. But look, if you want to, what do they say? Doom scroll or find things that bother you.
There's a lot of
stuff. Yeah. But it's not hard to find. Where are we going with this? If you write to me on X or Twitter or whatever Dan wants to call it, you're not going to get that immediate gratification. The way you have to do this today is call 866-4326. I will check your X every once in a while. Chris wrote to me hey, why didn't you? I'm like, dude, I'm not checking.
Yeah,
that's a danger thing.
Well, didn't you say you have to you got to take a survey or take something now that
Oh yeah, it's all you got to do it too. We were both kicked off, so I don't have the rights there yet. Game 7 tonight. It's Panthers and Oilers, 8:00 on ABC, and it's just my hope that we get a great game. What if we got an overtime game? What would that actually be like? For years, we always wondered what would it be like if we had a Super Bowl go to overtime. Finally we did have one, and it was kind of oh yeah, the Patriots, they came back and won, but then we've had a couple. So yes, now that we've kind of had that to our resume, I do think that we get a Game 7 Stanley Cup final tonight, and who knows how long this would go. Florida making the one lineup change. I don't know if you saw this, Dan. Galapposo going in.
Well, it is his last game. He has good veteran experience. He's played in big games. He's probably more of a factor than Nick Cousins is.
Is he getting up? Is he delivering the speech?
I don't know that a speech right now even matters. I mean, they're going to say that they're just staying in the course, as all the coaches are saying and the players.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a speech. It's all or nothing. Just go out there and lay it all on the line, and you just hope that you get the puck luck.
Yeah.
That's all you really can do.
That's it. Yeah. That's about it. So I just hope that we're not going to see Galapposo getting beat on a play, leading to the game-winning goal or anything like that.
Florida's made a lot of mental mistakes the last few games.
Yes.
I still don't know what happened in Game 4. I still can't figure it out why they're they're so sloppy in the neutral zone, and they're turning pucks over, and they're just not the same team they were the first 3 games. And I know Edmonton had played really well those first 3, but I don't know what happened in Game 4, and I still can't figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's, can we say human nature? Like, you went up there thinking you had won the cup, and let's just go back and win it at home. Like, the game was over, like, in the first 20 minutes. That should never be the case in any playoff game. And for a cup final game to go 8-1, that's arrogant.
Look at some of the scores last year in the final with Vegas and Florida. I think the last game, didn't Vegas have 9 goals or something at the end?
Yeah, they got
So
like, I hope that's not going to be the case tonight. Like, you have Edmonton, and then all of a sudden you get a goalie pulled, and it gets really wacky at the end. So we're just hoping for some decent hockey tonight. Hockey is the sport. People say there's no off season in football. Oh no, there is. Like right now, the NFL is very quiet. Not a lot of news. Maybe we'll get some hot uniform talk this week. Maybe somebody else will get into some legal trouble. I don't know what will happen. But I can tell you this, like, the fact that the 2 seasons are crashing into one another in hockey, we've gone Game 7, and then the Buffalo Sabres officially putting out the preseason schedule yet, which I'm like, and then they're not alone, and we had other teams doing this last week, so not a surprise the Sabres did this, but Sabres are getting roasted a little bit online. Because, okay, you have to put these dates in somehow. I can tell you that the one Buffalo thing is dead. And how do I know this? The Buffalo Bills in Week 3 are hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars on Monday Night Football. What are the Bills at that point? They're 1-1. I think that's realistic. Arizona could nip them. Miami on a short week certainly could do that. I don't know if Buffalo's 2-0. I think we all kind of.
I guess it'd be 2-0.
They could be.
It's early in the season. You just never know what you're going to get, and the Bills tend to start off fast, usually, right?
I'd say that Jacksonville one, being an AFC team, and you never know with wild cards and whatnot, that's one you got to get. That's what we love about the NFL. You could say that Week 3 game is important. So everybody's going to be sky high. Yeah. Buffalo, prime time. ESPN, dun, 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 dun. The Sabres are playing at home that night against Columbus.
Oh.
Are you kidding me?
They probably can't. I say maybe you could change the time. A lot of times when the Sabres play, Buffalo's playing the Bills, they'll swap the times out.
To me, somebody would have said, hey, can we do this on Tuesday night? Yeah. Maybe can we do it on Sunday? Like, you never go against the Bills. We know this.
Yeah.
We know this. Don't do it. Like, 1 year RIT hockey went, I'm like, nope, don't do it. Like, yep, we're not going to do that again. Honestly, don't do it. And here the Sabres you're costing yourself money by doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're going to go to the Sabre game and watch on your phone. But again, what
do you
fun is
know
that?
a lot of Jackets fans you can sell your tickets to?
I don't. Do you know one Jacket fan?
I've never. No. I know Leaf fan. I know tons of different stuff, crazy fans, but no Jacket fans.
No, it's not. They don't exist. You're the only Senator fan I know. Like, that's a fact. He's nodding his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just seems bad form, bad planning. Part of this, Dan, might be that we know the Sabres are opening the season in Prague.
Okay.
So it's funny, like, you want to talk about 2 seasons crashing into one another. Tomorrow we're going to be joined by Paul Hamilton, WGR. He's going out to Vegas because that's where the draft is at the end of the week.
The Sphere, yeah.
Yeah, and Dennis Bernstein will be joining us on Wednesday. So, like, we have an NHL draft. We could have some Sabre trades, and I know, sarcasm, Sabre trades, what are you talking about?
No, they could.
Maybe.
They could.
Maybe. Yeah, I think that we should be on alert for something interesting for the Sabres this week. 2 seasons crashing into one another, and if you're already releasing the preseason schedules, guess what's going to happen? Before the 4th of July, you'll have the Sabres schedule for next season. So it really is a very, very, there isn't an off season. But I'm hoping that tonight it draws a big number. Like, if hockey can't draw a big number with Connor McDavid
What else do you have going on tonight? You have the College World Series. What else is going on tonight?
You don't even have the
Is
the Subway Series is tomorrow.
WNBA going on? Like what is on tonight besides the NHL?
All right. Would any of these games take you away from? Would Blue Jays Red Sox take you away from? Look, no
baseball game is going.
No, Cleveland Baltimore. That's a good game.
No baseball game.
No, you're right. So tonight should be.
Even if the Mets were going for an 18th straight win, I'm not watching that over Stanley Cup Final Game 7. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Even if the Vikings were on, I'm probably not watching that. Well, they wouldn't be on, obviously, but.
He is Dan DeLorean, Dan Drumming, Pride of Hilton, our guest. We'll be talking to Steve Bradley, former sports editor at the Democrat and Chronicle, as he is now with Pick and Splinters, amongst other things, and we'll talk some Rochester sports with him coming up. My name is Gene Battaglia. Mike Danger will be back tomorrow, and this is Rochester's only local sports star, the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Brought to you by FEMA and the
of Burke America Parts Group, a family of brands that includes RepairClinic.com, an appliance and HVAC parts solution company that's grown into an international brand. Before AmericanEagle.com, we partially launched a new technology platform developed by another firm. American Eagle helped take our technology to a whole new level with digital marketing, software development, and business insights into our key markets, appliances, HVAC, and outdoor power equipment, and did so both on time and on budget. AmericanEagle.com has the resources, experience, and talent needed to produce solutions. Our new technology platform, developed by AmericanEagle.com, has produced tremendous results with higher traffic, conversion, engagement, and online revenue. If you have any home repairs you need to take care of, check us out at RepairClinic.com.
Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Tonight it is Game 7, Stanley Cup Final. Winner wins it all. Edmonton at Florida. Chris Knobloch is the Oilers head coach.
I think our approach has changed at all. 10 days ago, we talked about when we're down 3-0, just one day at a time. Enjoy the process. We're enjoying the process. We're enjoying where we are right now. We've got a confident group.
Buffalo Sabres preseason schedule is out. 6 games all in the month of September. Home games against Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Detroit. Rochester Red Wings are off tonight. They begin a 6-game set at home against Indianapolis tomorrow. Cleveland and Baltimore highlighting your Major League schedule tonight. The Subway Series resumes at Citi Field beginning tomorrow. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Neat or on the rocks? It's the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Summer afternoon here in the Sports Bar. It feels great to say that, right? Danger taking a day off. He'll be back tomorrow, but love when we have friends helping us out, helping us through. The Dandalorian producing here today. And I'm going to call him a new friend because we met last year formally doing the Section 5 broadcast. I'm like, you know what? We should just – he's got a unique perspective on sports in our town. Steve Bradley's stopping by. Steve, how are you today?
Great, Gene. Thanks for having me.
Like, we were talking about all the potential outcomes tonight, Game 7. This is exciting, Game 7 here. What do you think going into this here?
Well, I think it's the best it can be, right? Like we had in the break – 10 days ago, everybody thought it was a Florida sweep, and now we've got potentially the first time since 1942 that a team comes back to win after trailing 3-0 in the series. My buddies and I have a text going. It's 50-50. I went Draisaitl. I got Oilers 3-2 in overtime.
Okay. McDavid, they lose tonight. And the last guy, Dan, do you know who it was? Yes, you do.
J.S. Jaguar.
Yeah, Jaguar.
In 03.
Yeah, 03. Dan's like, oh, that wasn't that long ago. Dude, that was 21 years ago.
Now that I'm realizing.
21 years ago. I mean.
I forgot. I thought it was Ronnie Hextall in 87.
Yeah, Hextall also.
Right.
But here's another fun fact. Like, and it was telling this, do you know, let's see if you were you listening? Last time we had a Game 7 go to overtime, 54. So if we have that tonight, sometimes, though, it just gets away from teams in these games we're just so hyped up for, and I'm just afraid that that's what's going to happen here tonight, and it should be a lot of fun. Steve, you've got a unique perspective on sports editors. So now you're writing for Pick and Splinters. Years you were with the Democrat and Chronicles of Sports Editor. When you look back at your time in that position, how do you look back managing all those guys?
Oh, I had the luckiest seat in the house. Hall of Fame staff, and so many sports to cover. Bob Matthews, Scott Petoniak. I shouldn't start naming names because I'll forget somebody. Kevin DeClubs, Jeff DeVeronica, Jim Mandalero, on and on and on. And there was so much to do, and we took such pride in what we did that there was always something going on, and it's just kind of just amazing how times have changed.
Yeah, times have changed, like in that business, our business, just business in general. But what about and the example, and this came up last week on the show, the example being the LPGA, which was kind of the be-all, end-all, and we owned it. And I thought Rochester was synonymous with that tour. It was like the one stop that drew and got the media coverage, and then it's gone. It's like we don't talk about it. You have Norda Kelly, who is like if you ask anybody, who's that, like right now? So to me, Steve, that almost symbolizes, or should I not put too much stock into it, but we had like something like that in our town, and now it's gone.
Yeah, we had a lot of things in our town, the LPGA being one, and it was a major the last 4 or 5 years, so everything was bumped up at Locust Hill, and then later a couple of years at Monroe. And now when we talked about the topic, I was thinking, wow, you go back 25 years, the turn of the century, the Rhinos were winning the U.S. Open Cup, and I think the high water mark, Gene, was 10 teams when we had all the minor league teams.
Wow!
If you go indoor football with the Brigade and all those Rochester Raiders, indoor soccer, all those teams. And now, here we are on the cusp of 2025 next year. It's an interesting question. What will sports in town look like in not necessarily 25 years, but even 5 years or 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem I think in our town is like, and I'm going to do this right here, feed into it, is that we've made some mistakes. And you brought up the Rhinos. Had they put that stadium in Greasetown Park or wherever it was, in Gates, wherever they were looking at all these different venues closer to your base, and I understand why, hey, it's money, we're going to fight to have it downtown, but we talk about mistakes in our town, but the site for that stadium right now, what is the use for it?
Right. I mean, there are some high school games there. I think there's kickball there at night. The kickball league is thriving. But I don't know if that was the mistake. The mistake may have been building the stadium in the first place because there was all that talk that MLS was going to come in, and the revenues dried up. Who's going to buy these teams? Who's going to sustain these teams? Dr. Sev, who owned the Rochester Razor Sharks, had a great quote for me once. He told me a lot of things, and some of them were true. But he said the best way for a multimillionaire to become a millionaire is how,
It's buy a sports team.
Buy a minor league sports team.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing is people think they're going to come into this, and I don't want to name names, but I've met other minor league owners thinking, well, the predecessor, they know what they're doing here. Look at the books, look at these mistakes. I can do this, and they apply what they did. It's a losing proposition. The NFL makes money. Anything with a major TV contract, you should make money. Without a TV contract, I don't understand why anybody thinks they could make money. The number one reason you're doing it, it's like philanthropy. I want to do something for my hometown. But, Steve, ultimately, I'll draw you an analogy. When we went on our honeymoon, my wife and I, we kind of laughed at it. We go into this posh restaurant, and we ordered white Zinfandel. And the fact that, the waitress was like, okay, well, that was our palate back then. And right now, I couldn't drink any sweet wine. Our palate for sports has gotten maybe so much sharper because what's on TV and with everything major league. And it's tough if you're the Rochester Brigade or the Razor Sharks or whoever that, hey, the product isn't as good as what I could sit at home and watch on TV here.
Well, and that goes across the board. We see that with the Amerks during the season when they have games the same night as the Sabres. It's a tough draw, and you mentioned word palette, Gene, but it's really a smorgasbord. The technology with the live streaming, the in-home experience has become so comfortable and so easy for fans that if the Bills weren't good, people would stay home and watch the NFL ticket too. And you can have a good enough time at home that sometimes going to a game takes work, takes energy, and let's face it, the economy hasn't been the greatest either. It takes hard-earned money. The disposable income, people have to make tough choices.
Yeah, no doubt about it. What was your first year in that position at the DNC as a sports editor?
2007. I came there in 1999 and as a copy editor, was assistant sports editor, and then Tom Batzel left in 2007.
Okay, so that's good. So I'll back it up a little bit. So in the time where the Bills went to Fisher, which would have been the year 2000. You were, kind of in a, leadership role at that point. How much bigger are the Buffalo Bills in Rochester, New York today than, say, they were in the year 2000?
I would say exponentially. And I'll use my son as an example. He's 23, and he grew up, cheering for football. And originally he was a New Orleans Saints fan because they won the Super Bowl when he was 9 years old.
Okay.
And then now that the Bills have gotten better, that's there. And I took him to Fisher to camp as a 2 or 3 year old, running around even when they had the big bouncy slide and they had all the kids' playground and all of that. And that was just a genius move to regionalize the franchise. When they started talking about that with Russ Brandon back then, thought it was jargon, right? What do you mean regionalize the franchise, the fan base, get the Rochester support? But it really did help solidify after they had to sell all those luxury boxes. I believe in '98 it was.
Yeah.
To keep the team there. Now, with Pagula's in ownership, we think the Bills are pretty good for the next foreseeable future, right?
I think so. Although the whole story that is unreported because it's very difficult to get news out of Pagula. The fact about the PSLs right now, like that's the big unknown here. Are they really selling? I don't know if you follow that whole story, Steve, but there's just the idea that we don't get a lot of information, and you're not allowed if you have to sign a non-disclosure. Like, what other business is allowed to operate like something like that?
Well, it's funny because the NFL, right? The antitrust, they have all of these advantages. I think you're going to hear it from season ticket holders. I've got friends that are season ticket holders. They haven't had their date at the experience yet, where you go in and figure it out. But they're talking about installment plans to keep their tickets and all of those things. And right now, when the team's good, the stadium experience, it's a way of life. Everybody likes to go there in the fall now. I don't have the energy or the desire to go every week, but I like to go 2 or 3 times a year and just with the family and experience it. And, you just hope that they don't outprice themselves from the market.
Yeah. Steve Bradley, our guest here in the sports bar. To what degree, then, have the Buffalo Bills hurt the Red Wings, the Amherst, everything else in our town?
I don't know if hurt's the right word. I think they can all coexist. The Red Wings are kind of their own entity, and who doesn't enjoy any night at the ballpark when it's warm and it's fun and it's not outcome dependent. I think the resurgence of the Amherst in the last couple of years. If you want to go to a game, as a fan and get that ultimate experience, the Amherst in the playoffs is tough to beat. And then I think that most of the teams are smart enough to plan around it too. And the Red Wings, you see them embrace the Bills. They come to training camp. Somebody will come throw out a first pitch. They try and it's the high tide raises all boats philosophy. Let's rather than go against them, let's get with them and row in the same direction and bring some of their success to us, and we can contribute to them.
I guess maybe I'm looking at it more from like our standpoint, because from the Bills, from a sports talk standpoint,
from a coverage.
From a coverage standpoint, it is the Bills and everything else that kind of falls in line there. And I don't think, like, if I'm going back to when you started this, like in 1999, I don't think that was the case. I think it was like a little bit more balanced at that point.
Oh, absolutely. All those teams had their lane, had their alley. There was a point in time when people would never expect there to be a Red Wings game without a writer from Gannett there, or an Amherst game without a writer from Gannett there. And a lot of that changed because of the advent of online and all the different sources people get their information, and the immediacy, and the reliance on the game story. You didn't need to wait till the 11 o'clock news anymore, or for your paper to be delivered in the morning to find out if the Red Wings won, the Amherst won, and who did well. You had that at your fingertips with your phone, and I think that was a big part of it. And and people started basing their decisions on analytics, so what the clicks tell you rather than what the local knowledge told you and what the people on the street told you.
Yeah, that's and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the less coverage and then less people, and brings me back to like kind of the LPGA, where like, wow, we were really into it. Now I can't even imagine where. So again, it's part of the problem I think in our town is we look back and we assess blame, but mistakes of the past. But I kind of want to look forward here. But before we say what could this be, there is one team that I'm actually very concerned about their future. And we talk a lot about the Nighthawks on our show. The fact that the Rochester Nighthawks, reported by Tim Graham, are actually up for sale. And you have this kind of coinciding with the same time. After this year, Steve, the Pagulas are not going to be managing the Blue Cross Arena. So there's going to be some other outfit. Where is this all going here, do you think?
I don't know. Ever since the Pagulas owned both the Bandits and the Nighthawks, it's been a little bit tricky and a little bit gray. When Kurt Stiers came in and then moved his team to Halifax, without somebody invested in the community, you're right, because the National Lacrosse League, and Rochester has all its challenges, a smaller arena, a smaller market, and you see what happens in Toronto with the Rock or with Colorado. I don't know. I would be concerned. And I was an original Nighthawks season ticket holder. It's so entertaining. It's so fun that you just don't know. And if you're optimistic, I don't know if you're realistic.
Well, if they are giving, I think it's a flare in the sky. It's not a warning, but it's like hey, we're going to kind of, move off of this team, because from a business standpoint, as you made mention, it's like it doesn't make much sense to own two teams. This felt like this was Kim Pegula doing her hometown a solid. And now, unfortunately for Kim, everything is now in a trust, and she's incapacitated, and that terribly sad story. Is there somebody else in our town? And it brings me back to that quote you mentioned about the Razor Shark owner. Like, well, yeah, I would imagine that owning the Rochester Nighthawks is not a profitable venture, even though you may think you'd be able to make money, but
right. And somebody who's done very well might love lacrosse and might want to do it and might be happy just trying to break even. But finding that person and getting them to do that, I mean, the challenge is most of the people who are successful enough to own minor league sports franchises have worked hard and have a certain way of doing business that works in the real world that doesn't necessarily work in the world of minor league sports.
Yeah, well, and part of it, too, is it's nonstop. Like, you own a minor league team and you work for a minor league team. It's not 40 hours. It's not 60 hours. You're wearing many different hats, and to kind of put that on. And I think when you had the two staffs combined for the Amerks and the Nighthawks, and maybe this ends up, maybe they don't get sold. I should also mention that's also a potential outcome.
In order to be sold, you have to have a buyer, right?
Right. So it was like we had all these rumors, unsubstantiated, that there were, and surely, like there's we're not naive, like any other, if there was like somebody that wanted to bring a G League team here in basketball or something, we'd be like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. But the idea that you could have the Amerks and Nighthawks continuing on there in both the same management. Look, if it didn't work that way, it's going to be difficult. I am happy though that the Amerks have found solid footing here. That, Steve, I didn't think coming out of the pandemic we would ever see sold out crowds at the Blue Cross Arena. And why do you think that is, that our town kind of took a liking to the Amerks once again?
Well, part of it was that there had been a drought. They hadn't won a series since, 2005, for a long time. So this town embraces winners. This town loves to jump on and attach itself to success. So that was part of it. And I think being back with the Sabres, there are those diehard Amerks fans, right? There's those 600, 700 of them that think all Amerks are the whole thing, and they're Amerks. But for the bigger picture, in order to be successful, the Sabres are the right choice for the Amerks. And the Sabres have finally invested, gotten some of those veterans that make the Amerks competitive, put some money into it, and now it's great. And there's nothing better than playoff hockey. We're going to see that tonight. And I was at the game last year when they clinched against Toronto. That was unbelievable. And just people love to do that, but it has to build up to that. And we're a hockey town. I mean, RIT gets pretty good support. The Amerks get good support. St. John Fisher is adding men's and women's hockey next year. So, that's a sport that really people in this town embrace.
Yeah, I love the fact that we have Division I hockey at RIT for the men and women, but why hasn't there been a school in our metro? And I guess for every school there's a different reason, but what would that have done? What would it do for our town if one school said, yeah, we're going to go Division I, or is that just it doesn't sound as good as it sounds better than the reality there?
Well, I think the pandemic put a damper on that. I'm pretty, there was pretty substantiated talk before the pandemic that RIT was seriously considering and starting to put the money away to make that a strong possibility. And then a lot has to happen right for it to happen, because there's NCAA rules. You have to find a conference. You have to have solid financial footing. You have to, for everything you add, you have to have checks and balances and supports in place. I think they were seriously considering, but now, President Munson's going to retire next year. Who knows? A lot of it is the view of administration and the Board of Trustees, but that would have been great if that would have ever come to fruition.
Yeah, and I don't know what Division I will actually mean, say, 20 years from now. That's the other part of this. And just from the example of hockey, watching that RIT team, Steve, I'm not kidding. They would have been preseason top 10, returning virtually everybody. And they got picked apart like a chicken. And granted, there's going to be new talent coming in, but what the portal has done, and if you apply this to maybe other schools, like if I'm a St. Bonaventure, if I'm any mid-major in college basketball, I mean, look, I would have loved to have a Division I basketball team here, men and women in Rochester, but in reality, like, where are we headed in that sport?
Well, and you just you can't do it if you have D1 hockey, you have men's and women's, and there's that rule. RIT can have the two companion D1 sports, and everything else is D3. You go basketball, then you're going to have to jump in with all the other sports.
Yeah,
too.
they got rid of that
part
rule.
it.
Yeah, they got rid of that rule that where Hobart went to Division I lacrosse, whatever, and you can't. They don't allow you to just pick and like people ask, well, why can't Fisher have Division I soccer? Can't do that anymore.
Right.
So, can you hang around for another set?
Sure.
Okay. I didn't know what plans you had tonight, or there's no Red Wing game. I know you're not heading off to that.
I got a 6th grade graduation at 7 o'clock,
Oh,
but otherwise I'm good.
All right, 15 more minutes. We'll keep Steve Bradley. He is with Pick and Splinters. We'll talk to him about some of the things he's doing now, and we will be talking next hour. Yes, because 4th of July should mean time to do some research on fantasy football. Michael F. Florio from the NFL Network will be joining us. Mike Danger is out today, along with Dan DeLorean. My name is Gene Battaglia. Steve Bradley's stopping by as well on the Sports Bar here on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar.
camera on. There we go. Yeah, that's it's a little out there. I think it's time for Dan to let go there.
No, I'm not doing it.
No, not
Sorry.
doing it.
Sorry.
Steve Bradley, who years with the DNC as a sports editor, now doing Pick and Splinters, and that's like that. You and I have the same passion because when you're covering high school sports, the access, everything, yes, there are some bad sports parents. Yes, there are some stories, but it's nothing like dealing with pros or anything like that.
No, and people generally appreciate almost everything that you do, and high school sports have changed a lot from when we were in high school in terms of how good the athletes are, how much time and money goes into preparing just to play a varsity sport, how difficult it is to play a varsity sport, how good you have to be just to represent your school, and it's just a lot of fun, and to showcase those and capture those moments, and because the best thing about high school sports over the course of a season, almost everybody on a team gets a moment, and we get to witness those moments. You never know when the moment's going to happen or whose moment it's going to be, but when it does, it can be special.
Yeah. Steve Bradley now Pick and Splinters, some varsity media work. In your time here in Rochester, what are some of your favorite moments covering over the years?
I think I got to go to the Ryder Cup in '95.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really the gold standard that, just when the world came here. I was actually the sports editor at the Daily Messenger in Canandaigua when that had happened. And just seeing the whole world converge, the golf world. I enjoyed the LPGA. We threw every resource we had at it when we were at the Democrat and Chronicle. And, every decade you'd get the PGA. And that was fun. And the U.S. Amateur, do you remember that in '98?
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. That's coming back, right?
That's coming back, and we keep waiting. And we talked to a bunch of, golf people. Brian Coles, as I bang the microphone there. Talk with my hands, Steve. I kind of do that. We talked to people. I would have thought
Is this
we
where I
would.
say, why do you do that? And then Danger says,
because I'm Italian. Very good. Wow, Steve listens to the show. Yes, I'm Italian. I talk with my hands. Steve, as far as the future of sports here in Rochester, because is it enough to hold serve with the Amherst, the Nighthawks, and the Red Wings, or do you see an opportunity in our town, or is it just going to take somebody with vision right now that's beyond me or you or lots of people?
I think that's the answer. I think, if we go back to that, looking into the crystal ball 5 or 10 years down the road, what will it be? Would there be a way to have that Division I basketball program here? Would somebody step up and do that? Or what sport's going to emerge, right? Will the colleges start having women's flag football, which is one of the fastest growing sports and has become, with the support of the NFL at the high school level, the fastest growing sport in the section and the state? I think there's room for something new because people's taste change, everything evolves, the technology evolves. But I wish I knew what it was because I tried to put together a group and figure it out.
Yeah, it's fun. We always have this dream of Rochester is a major league city, and bringing it back to what we were talking about before. I think there was a lot of people holding out hope that the Rhinos would be in Major League Soccer, but let's be honest, the way the franchises are going for right now, I don't know. Is that kind of the best case scenario there for Division I, and maybe whoever the new president at RIT kind of brings in, that is something on his agenda, his or her agenda?
I think so. I mean, that kind of feels like the opportunity because, you've got UB has grown exponentially in Buffalo with the college athletics, and maybe Fran Brown's going to bring college football back to Syracuse. Red Autry, maybe the men's basketball will be a player again. We got to kind of find our own thing, and that's the challenge, is because being the city in the middle, the loyalties get pulled a lot too.
Yeah, that's true. The fact that, hey, it's great that we pull for the Orange. That's not our town. It's great we pull for the Bills and Sabres. Not our town. I just if there's some philanthropist, just contact us offline. Let me know what you're thinking about it. But as you mentioned, don't get into it thinking that you can make money for sure. Steve, who's your baseball team?
Yankees.
Oh, why did I? Maybe I just saw pictures of you at a Guardians game or something like that.
I did the Guardian. One thing, my family and I have a goal of trying to go to all 30 stadiums. I've been to 30, but only in 20 different cities.
Okay.
I've been to 3 different in Atlanta. So we try to get a new ballpark every year.
Okay, so do you have one on the agenda this summer?
We've got one on the agenda, but it's not a new one. We're going to Yankees Red Sox next month for my birthday. I kind of have my eye on Detroit because that's really the nearest drivable one we haven't been to.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's going to line up with the calendar.
Okay. True or false? Going to a Blue Jays game in Buffalo would count as a Major League stadium. True or false?
Not Major League Stadium, but Major League game.
Major League game. You wouldn't count that as like on your. That's not one. I'm assuming you went to the one. It's not.
Yeah, I went to 3 games in Buffalo, and it was great. But, it was Major League Baseball. But, if I say I went and saw the Blue Jays, I've seen them at Old Exhibition Stadium and Rogers/Skydome. But I don't count Dunn Tire Park or Pilot Field or Salem Stadium, whatever it is now.
The Yankees, first time this year, they've lost 3 series in a row. Now, granted, Atlanta's good. But although they've had some bumps, Baltimore. So is this a sign here? I mean, J.D. Davis is not going to fix everything for you here, Steve. So, I mean, you're hoping, I guess, Rice kind of steps up a little bit. What about Dominguez? Like, where do you see the Yankees going over the next month here?
Yeah, I'm more worried about the bullpen. The lineup tends to find a way to figure it out, although they are kind of feast or famine. The fast start, what are they? You kind of you regress to the mean a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they came back because I didn't think they were as good as they started, but they've been a lot of fun to watch. So I think they're a playoff team. But the thing about baseball that changes, it's not the '84 Tigers. You don't go wire to wire. You want to be the best team from October 10th to November 1st, and you just want to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
that's
it's so unpredictable. It's so different.
I think it's a problem in baseball, actually.
I don't disagree.
Like I look at teams that are below 500. I look at Texas, say, for instance. Okay, they're below 500. Scherzer looked really good yesterday. Why can't they make a run? Or Houston, any of these teams, Steve, that right now. And baseball loves it for that point just because, their fan bases are all nodding their head. Hey, we're still in this. No, I want to see the best. Right. At the end of the year.
During the Mets game yesterday, they showed the graphic of there's 10 teams within 5.5 games of the wild card in the National League, something crazy like that. And that the second half of the season, somebody that has not performed well up now is going to make a run and shoot up those standings.
What do we got on Pickin' Splinters that we can go check out? I know you got an article there up on the Mets there, which anytime you want to write about the Mets there, that's all good.
Yeah, I had we used to call these Hey Martha stories when I was at the paper because it's like, Hey Martha, did you hear about this? And there were, if you were watching the Mets game the Saturday before Father's Day, there's a ball hit down the left field line that goes into the stands, and it almost looks like Brandon Nimmo reaches in and basically snatches it right out of the palm of the hand of a guy. And, of course, the other rule is there's always a Rochester connection. The gentleman's name was Andrew Solomon. He's a phys ed teacher in Penfield. And kind of blew up a little bit online, and I was able to catch up with him last week and share his story, and that was a lot of fun. And I do a lot of stuff for Roberts Wesley, and they've got a big story this week. Their pole vaulter, Bryn King, is at the U.S. Olympic trials out in Oregon. So if Rochester wants to latch on to somebody new, keep an eye on Bryn King out in Oregon this week.
Is he being coached by Jen Shura then?
She, women's pole vault.
I'm sorry.
King, yep.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep, great story. Duke transfer. Came to Roberts and set the Division II records for both indoor and outdoor pole vault. Has improved 16 inches in a year. At Duke, she could not clear 14 feet. Now she did 14.4.5 to set the NCAA Division II record. So the pole vault trials are very tough. 24 people going for 3 spots, but kind of a feel-good story that maybe I think Rochester's going to latch on to a little bit this week. I know there's been some media out there.
Well, keep up the good work. I've never met the person who runs Pickin' Splinters. They do a good job, great job over there.
Paul Gotham.
Yeah, doing a fine job. And maybe you and I get to call a game next Scholastic year.
Let's get on the phone with the Turk and make it happen.
Yeah, make it happen here. Well, Steve, thanks for stopping by. Poor Steve had to wait outside. At least it wasn't raining today.
Sorry about that.
And the thing is, we have these pigeons, but there's babies in the nest.
I didn't know that. I knew there was one right there.
Well, because they were thinking about kicking them out, and it's until the babies leave. But the product of that, it makes a mess. So apologize for the mess, Steve. But
I waited in my car, listened to the show. I was
good. We've got some fantasy football talk coming up because you know what? It's 4th of July. Hopefully you get a little time off, and it's a good time to start thinking about scenarios and things you might have missed, and newcomers and new faces and new places. Michael F. Florio joining us next hour. We do have time for your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Mike Danger will be back tomorrow along with Dan DeLorean. My name is Gene Battaglia here on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with And in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester. Sports update.
One game to win the championship tonight in hockey. It's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton at Florida. Florida trying to avoid blowing a 3-0 lead. Here's their head coach, Paul Maurice.
Yeah, I think the puck drops and momentum will change and over the course of the game, but more so even true in Game 7s. The finality of it. There's this kind of clean slate because both teams have fought real hard to get to the very end.
Former Sabre captain Kyle Pozo going into the lineup tonight for Florida. The Sabre preseason schedule is out. 6 games, all in the month of September. The home games against Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Detroit. Rochester Red Wings are off tonight. They begin a 6-game homestand tomorrow against Indianapolis. Orioles and Guardians tonight in baseball. The Subway Series begins tomorrow night. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The hockey season ends tonight with Panthers or Oilers raising the Stanley Cup. Game 7 in Florida shortly after 8 Eastern.
Now it comes down to one game for it all. So, guys are, fired about this opportunity.
It's the all-time legacy game for Connor McDavid tonight.
Connor McDavid! Mike Danger.
Look at you. You can tell it's trivia night tonight. Gene is just a wealth of knowledge, just a treasure trove of knowledge in preparation for trivia tonight. Are you accepting any team names? Will the Leo Shufflers be in attendance tonight at Trivia Night?
Gene Battaglia.
It's okay for us as sports fans. You don't have to die on the hill. You can say, hey, I was wrong about this. And this is what makes it entertaining. Now, maybe I'll be wrong again.
Mets closer Edwin Diaz was ejected last night on Sunday Night Baseball. Diaz had illegal substance on his hand, and Diaz is also going to get a 10-game suspension.
This is sweat and rosin.
Scotty Scheffler beat Tom Kim in a playoff to win the Travelers.
We've got a whole group of protesters here.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
And not to get too off course, but the protesters with always the smoke flares and everything,
what was that all about?
Well, yeah, and I don't want to give it, and you're breaking the law. I cannot, it's anybody watching at home thinking, you know what? Let's turn off the air conditioning because they're right. The climate is... I don't understand other than the look at me nature of that. There's got to be more productive ways if that is your cause. Breaking the law and scaring people because the golfers, honestly, somebody running at you in a competition. And it's not unique to golf. I mean, it's happened before in football, when you've had PETA protesters gluing themselves to the hardwood.
Yep.
So... honestly, what would deter that? Just tougher laws. Just don't make it trespassing. Make it, mandatory this or I don't know. Anyways, send my piece.
We're off script.
We're off script. Get back on sports. Although that was sports yesterday.
Yeah.
But to hear Nance call this in real time, that's always interesting, right? Al Michaels is preparing to call a World Series game, and all of a sudden he's got to call an earthquake happening. Steve Tasker is there on the sideline ready to report on the Super Bowl. Oh my gosh, there's a power outage, and you're the only guy that is available that we have power to, and go. Like the unexpected for the sports announcer.
Yep.
And for Nance yesterday, it was just there's some police that are on. I think part of it too, Dan, was, and people don't know this, he can't be at every hole. So Nance is actually calling this off a monitor.
Yeah.
So it would be like you and I sitting at home. It's a little different when you're actually calling the game on site, where Nance, and I assume that's what it was here on hole 18, that he's not over there actually on top of the tower looking down and everything happening. He's watching this on a monitor, and the people in the truck are looking at what is this? In case you missed it, the Travelers yesterday, they had 6 knuckleheads run on the 18th green, and police took them down right away, and that was about it. Anyhow, we do have a couple. Do we want to hit the breaking news sounder? Are these big enough?
That's up to you, Gino.
Okay, for why not?
Ow! It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
All right, so 2 notes Adam Schefter put out here. One being Michael Penix has signed his contract. So to me, Dan, the thought swung really quickly on draft night because you have one quarterback, in my opinion, that was still good. Bo Nix, good luck to the Broncos on that. But I'm thinking, wow, you have Michael Penix out there, and you had Denver looking for a quarterback and the Raiders looking for a quarterback, and here's Atlanta taking Penix at 9. And on draft night, I'm like, that's brilliant. They are now going to flip him and get a team, one of those two teams, nervous and jerky, to overpay. And then that never happened. Like, oh my gosh, they gave all that money to Kirk Cousins, and you're just wasting all that money, or you're wasting development time for Michael Penix. Because Michael Penix should be starting right now. The advantage that you have with a rookie quarterback, especially one like Michael Penix, if he's your guy, he's a little more ready-made than, say, I don't know, many other quarterbacks. Maybe even Caleb Williams, okay? We would debate that if Danger were here. He'd fire back at me. Michael Penix, that's going to be one of the storylines. When does Atlanta make the switch? How do they coexist? I think that's just fascinating for a team. Normally, we don't care about the Atlanta Falcons. Interesting enough. The other one, and this one has a little more teeth to it. So Brandon Ayuk apparently is having a sit-down with the 49ers today. So the odds that Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk will both be satiated with whatever kind, both be on the 49ers this year, Dan, or is one of the two getting moved?
I think Ayuk's gone. I don't know where he's going, but I think he's gone. I mean, I think Deebo, he's their play. I mean, you have McCaffrey, but I think you need to have Deebo just to add that other level of just dangerousness that your offense has. And I think Ayuk is kind of the odd man out.
I think either one would be great in Pittsburgh. The idea that Pittsburgh had been rumored and they were saying second-round pick, it's almost like the Steelers, they want to have it both ways. Like, if you want one of these two quarterbacks, whether that's Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson, or whether that's Justin Fields, if you want one of the two of them to succeed, then give them another tool. Like, that offense, to me, it's been stagnant, and the quarterback certainly is like the number one reason on the board, but it would actually help if you had an accomplished receiver.
I couldn't tell anybody on the Steelers wide receivers. Who do they even have? They have Pat Freiermuth at tight end. Who do they have as a wide receiver there? I don't know anybody in Pittsburgh.
Well, we got Michael F. Florio coming up here, and maybe like when we talk to him about let's pull this out here because it's good that we're doing some of this homework right now. And I just hit NFL standings. That's not what I want. I want NFL depth charts. All right, how many of these receivers are still on Pittsburgh that we know of? Well, George Pickens is still there.
Okay.
Van Jefferson came over from the Rams.
All right.
Calvin Austin the third. Quez Watkins. Yeah, now we're getting into.
They have a bunch of nobody.
Yeah, like
other than Pickens.
It's Roman Wilson. Oh, Scotty Miller. That's where he ended
okay.
up. Scotty Miller, who was with the Buccaneers and had one big catch there in the NFC Championship
against Green Bay.
Against Green Bay. So, yeah, what are the Steelers all about? Yeah, that's going to be one of the topics that we're going to be talking to Michael F. Florio coming up. Not sure which coast he's on. He's New York-based, but with the NFL Network moving out to Los Angeles, and kind of quiz him because he always talks about coming up for training camp. And that is 1 month away from today, Dan, the first practice, July 24th.
Right.
Yeah, so excited about that. Want to thank Steve Bradley for coming in, because Steve's got a unique perspective on our town. And look, over the last 25 years, we've undergone some changes here. And it's just kind of the way the world was. We were like the minor league capital, but minor league sports is not a good business proposition. If you don't have the TV contract that goes with it, that's what fuels everything, then kind of difficult. Even you could be the best run soccer team or indoor football team or whatever it is, ultimately, and you could draw fans. If you're not turning a profit, there will be an end game to it. And just kind of looking ahead, and he brought up a good point that Munson is the president at RIT. Next year will be his, last year. Will the new president come in and have RIT Division I sports on the agenda? Or will Division I sports, as we know it 5 to 10 years from now, look completely different, like the NCAA? I don't know where we're all headed with that. And I think the people in that business don't know where they're headed. But it's a fair question. I think for now, if we can hold to our meeting, the Red Wings, the Amerks, the Nighthawks, keep the Nighthawks here. And certainly we love football at St. John Fisher University. Having the Bills there, of course. And then, can we get another major at Oak Hill? I mean, they've kind of like doing off the checklist of things there. That would be, something there. Tonight we got Game 7. We've been talking about that. Edmonton and the Florida Panthers. And Steve mentioned this before, and I'll just pull up this stat here. Credit Steve for this. I meant to bring this up while he was here. 12-5. Also, this would be the 18th Game 7 in Cup final history. I thought there would have been more. So you'd think, like, all these teams that no longer exist, like the Vancouver Millionaires and the Seattle whatevers, or like from way back, turn of the century, I'm not talking 2000, we've only had 18 Game 7s, or 17, tonight being the 18th. Home team's all-time 12-5, but the road team has won the last 3.
Mm-hmm.
So tonight, Florida, they fall behind early. Is everybody kind of getting yippy there?
I think if they fall behind early, I think it's game over. I think if Florida wants to win tonight, they have to score first. They might have to score a couple.
Yeah.
And they might be like up 2-1, 2-0 after the first. Because if they fall behind, I think the Oilers are just going to pour it on.
Yeah. It's I'm hoping for a good game tonight. I'm hoping it's not. I want to see greatness. I don't want to see a goalie letting in softies.
Well,
I don't want to see Calapozo getting out. Calapozo going in tonight. And I'm sure he's going to give the pregame speech or whatever it is, which is that 100% sure? Like, this is his last season?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is like Buffalo said, we're going to trade you so that you can have a chance to play for a championship. I can't see him coming back.
No.
He's just, I think he wants to spend time with his family. I think he's got little kids at home.
It is a risky move for Florida tonight. You don't think so?
It is. But,
Yeah.
I mean, they're taking out Nick Cousins. Now, Nick Cousins he's probably more of an enforcer. He's a fourth liner.
Yeah.
He's not like a Barkov or a Kachuk or someone who's going to be like a Rodriguez who's going to be scoring goals.
Mm-hmm.
But you just never know.
Well, in fact, too, Dan, is that for folks who don't know, like when you have the home ice, the advantage is you get to put out the line after.
Change,
so, you get the last change. So it's not like, oh my gosh, Opozo's out there against McDavid and Draisaitl. It's never going to happen. No, not coming off a draw or anything like that. So that's why. If Game 7 were up in Edmonton,
oh yeah, I don't think he even played the last 2 games.
Yeah,
and Game 5 was in Florida, so it's just because I think it's kind of like just the coach doing him a solid. Saying, here's your last game, don't screw it up out there because it's the last game for either team. Doesn't matter.
We will talk to Michael F. Florio coming up next. NFL Network, the voice you're hearing, Dandalorian, which again. Why do you call him the Dandalorian? Star Wars. Just kind of stuck there. Danger will be back tomorrow. I'm sure he'll have a lot of story. Did Danger buy something? That's the thing.
Oh, of course.
You think so?
Of course.
What would he have bought?
That's
high-end collectibles. You're spending hundreds of bucks. His wife's not letting him spend that money. Unless he's got the Danger slush fund, which he'll never admit to.
He might. I think he's buying something.
That'll be tomorrow. Paul Hamilton will join us on the show tomorrow as well. Coming up next, Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, NFL Fantasy. We will talk some of the thing you should be doing if you're a fantasy football player. It's a little homework. Kind of wade into the pool the first time here this summer when it comes to fantasy football. Michael F. Florio next here on the Sports Bar.
You're listening. Rochester Sports Update.
Tonight it's Game 7, Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton and Florida. Winner of this one is the champion. Chris Knobloch is the head coach of the Oilers.
I don't think our approach has changed at all. 10 days ago, we talked about when we're down 3-0, just one day at a time, enjoy the process. We're enjoying the process. We're enjoying where we are right now. We've got a confident group.
Sabres preseason schedule is out. 6 games all in the months of September. Home games are against Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Detroit. Rochester Red Wings are off tonight. They begin a 6-game series at home tomorrow against Indianapolis. Baseball tonight, everything under the lights, including Baltimore and Cleveland. The Yankees and Mets Subway Series resumes tomorrow night. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Pull up a stool and join us. 585-866-4FAN. 866-432-6. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
This is one of the exciting times of year in sports. Really it is, in my opinion, because we all get a little extra time, at least I hope you do, celebrate summer with friends and family. And if you're going to the beach, or maybe you're on a long drive, who's done this? Like maybe some families do the license plate game. Maybe some families play an I Spy game. Maybe you're just the guy or girl that's driving along and doing the mock draft in your head. Yes, this is what we do this time of year. And happy to have on the show one of the best in the industry, Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, NFL Fantasy. You hear him also on Sirius XM. And can we say Bills fan still? Michael, how are you today?
Oh, you could definitely call me a Bills fan still, and I'm doing well. It's nice and sunny out here in LA. I hope you guys have similar weather up in Rochester.
Well, listen, we need to get you out on our set, here at St. John Fisher. That starts 1 month from today. And I don't like to be the guy that, crams for an exam, like when I was in school or anything. Never liked that feeling. So having you on today and just talking about some of these fantasy issues. And since this is kind of, our team, the Buffalo Bills here, and this is one of the easier ones that we could ask you here today. Diggs is gone. We know this. But Josh Allen's still going to throw the ball, Michael. So where do those targets kind of go to now in this Bills offense?
I don't think anyone is going to see the target rate that Stephon. I mean, he's averaged 161 targets per year in his 4 years in Buffalo. I don't think anyone comes close to that number, but I do think Dalton Kincaid will be the top target. He is the first Bills pass catcher going off the board in early drafts right now, going typically in the 5th. Sometimes he falls into the 6th round, but borderline top 5 tight end, and a lot of high expectations for him. Remember, he got drafted with comparisons to Travis Kelce and everything, so I think last year was kind of the Bills letting him dip his toe in the water, and this year we're going to see him kind of set free and just such a larger part of the offense. But the Bills wide receivers are all good values right now. Like Keon Coleman goes the highest of them all, and that's expected, I think, because he has the highest upside of them all. Maybe not the safest pick, but if any one of these guys is going to turn into a star, it's likely Keon Coleman. But you get Curtis Samuel, who's had a career year with Joe Brady in Carolina. You get him in like the 8th, 9th round. And my personal favorite value is Khalil Shakir, who I don't know if people notice this. He was top 2 last year in fantasy points per target and per opportunity amongst wide receivers. Caught fire down the stretch, clearly has the trust of Josh Allen. And you get him in the double-digit rounds of drafts right now. So I don't think there's a wrong answer with the Bills guys, but Shakir is my personal favorite value of the bunch.
I love Shakir because if you projected what he did in the last 7 weeks of the season, Michael, that's a top 10 receiver in fantasy that you're getting in the 11th round. But the question is, that's the balance, right? And typically speaking, is year 3 the year a receiver can kind of break out? At what point does it become too late? Because I don't think it's too late for Khalil Shakir to kind of step into that role entering year 3.
Yeah, for a while, it was always year 3 is the year receivers break out. Now, in the last 10 years, especially in the last 4 or 5 years, we've gotten spoiled with a lot of rookies. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, to name a few, just coming out and being studs right away. But when you're someone like Shakir, who isn't a early round pick and who has to first year, you're just kind of battling for a roster spot. And his second year, we saw him go from someone who was, like you were saying, early in the year, he was just a piece for the Bills and a contributor. Down the stretch, though, he really carved out a larger role. And I would say he had the Bills' biggest play in each of their playoff games, clearly earning the trust of Josh Allen as the year went on. So I do believe that he's kind of an old school prime to break out in year 3. We used to have to wait for year 3 for receivers. We're a little spoiled now, but Shakir more on that traditional path, I think.
Michael F. Florio giving us some fantasy knowledge here in the sports bar. I'm sticking with the Bills because where do you come down on James Cook? Because James Cook, in terms of scrimmage yards last year, and again, touchdowns and receptions, and again, the disclaimer here, yes, it depends on your scoring system here, but can he be a worthwhile running back 1 here in this Bills offense? Or, and again, there's going to be a lot of rookies. We don't know what role. Do you see the 4th rounder, Ray Davis, maybe carving into some of those carries? How do you assess the Bills' backfield here, Michael?
I still think James Cook is the guy. The only thing is I was all over James Cook last year. I thought he was an amazing value. And at this time a year ago, James Cook was barely going inside the top 10 rounds. He was a big ADP climber in August. He got as high as the 5th, 6th round. But still, at that point, you're taking him to be your second, maybe even your second running back or your flex option, something like that. Whereas this year, he's going top 12 at the running back position, and you have to pay for an RB1 price to get him. So I'm not nearly as high on him now as I was last year. That's not anything to do with James Cook. It's just the price it costs you to get him on your team. But I do think it's interesting you bring up Ray Davis, because I think Ray Davis is a bigger threat to James Cook than any of the running backs were last year, especially once Damian Harris got hurt last year. After that, it was clear that the Bills didn't have another running back that they were comfortable taking James Cook off the field for long periods of time. Whereas Ray Davis, not only is he a bulldozer, who could be a short yard back and could be the goal line back, which is something that James Cook even last season struggled to do, but he had, I believe it was 67 catches in college last year. He is a good pass-catching back. So do we see the Bills operate more like other teams now, where it's okay, the starter gets 2 out of every 3 drives, and then Ray Davis is going to get that 3rd drive? And if that's the case, he's a bigger threat to not only eat into some touches, but some targets. And that's where James Cook really excelled last season. But without Diggs being there, maybe we see both running backs used a little bit more in the passing game. So I think James Cook is appropriately valued as a low-end RB1. But again, just because of where he was going last year, I find myself having a lot less James Cook than I did a year ago.
Michael F. Florio is our guest. You mentioned Dalton Kincaid, and it's a question about the tight ends because, Michael, I always like paying the price. I saw the value years ago and looking at Gronk compared to other tight ends, where at least I didn't have to worry about whether you would pop it. You could mark them down. Kelsey certainly fit that category, but now I look at some of the other talent, and you could say, hey, Laporta, for those paying attention, he didn't really come out of nowhere, and he's on the scene. How would you assess the tight end position? Is it a position where you still have to pay top dollar, or is the depth a little bit better this year as compared to other years?
I think the high-end depth is better this year in comparison to other years, but it still things out relatively quickly. You have the big 4, I would say, in Kelsey, Laporta, Trey McBride, and Mark Andrews. And then after that, Dalton Kincaid and Kyle Pitts, to me, are kind of their own tier, where you're not paying quite as high of a price as you are for the top 4 guys, but they still – and the floor isn't what those top guys are. That's why those guys go as early as they do, because they're so safe. But Pitts and Kincaid could easily take that next step and enter that elite tight end tier. So to me, they're tight ends 5 and 6, and I have no problem taking either one of them in the 5th, 6th round. After that, you have guys like George Kittle, who, because of the health thing he's dealing with right now, lost all that 30 pounds. That, to me, is scary. When you have Evan Ingram, David Njoku, and then it starts to thin out. Now, there still are names like Dallas Goedert and Brock Bowers and stuff like that you could feel good about, but they're probably going to be very inconsistent week to week, which is why I'm not forcing one of the early tight ends, but if I feel like it's a good value, I will grab them up in my early draft. But Kincaid and Pitts seems to be the area where I'm most comfortable taking a tight end this year.
Yeah, I had a question for you down the list. I'm going to bump it up because you brought up Kyle Pitts, and I'm sure you get this question a lot because we've all been burned by somebody on the Atlanta Falcons over recent years. Pitts, Bijan Robinson, but you can point to the former head coach, I suppose, Drake London. What do you make of this Atlanta offense? Like, where do you see the value? And is there two different answers here? Because if it's Kirk Cousins, are we penciling in Kirk Cousins because he was very productive at one point for Minnesota last year before he went down? Or do we drop everybody down a half notch if it ends up being Michael Penix, which I don't know if that's going to be the case, but a lot of questions surrounding this Atlanta offense here, Michael.
Yeah, I expect this offense to be much better for a couple of different reasons. One, the new head coach, like you said, I think Arthur Smith wanted to be the smartest guy in every room he stepped into and was like, I'm going to find ways to win without using my best players. And for fantasy purposes, we hate that. I think now with the new coach, the new OC, especially having ties to Sean McVay, I think we're going to see a lot more of a balanced attack, not just necessarily relying on the run game. But Kirk Cousins, and I expect Kirk Cousins to play all year unless he gets hurt, he is huge for this offense because last year Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder had combined, they were in the bottom 2 for most off-target throws. The year prior to that, Marcus Mariota was in the bottom 2 in uncatchable targets thrown. Like, they were just asking these guys, he could be throwing to Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. It doesn't matter. If the ball is uncatchable, there's nothing your receivers can do. So I believe in the talent that is Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson to that extent as well. But for Drake London, you have to take him in the second round. And there's a lot of really talented wide receivers there. For Kyle Pitts, you're getting him in the 6th round at a much thinner position where the bar for success is much lower. If each of these guys gave you 12 points per game, you're going to be very disappointed with Drake London. You're going to be very happy with Kyle Pitts. So to me, that's why I've settled on Pitts once again. It's like, if I want exposure to this offense, this is the guy that I'm going to go to get it from. Even though I think Bijan could be the RB1 this year, I'm just trusting the quarterback and the coach a lot more than in the past. And because of how thin tight end is, and again, if you get 10 points per game out of your tight end, you're ecstatic with that. That's why I'll take the talent that is Kyle. And for the 4th straight year, I'm advocating taking him. 1 year has gone well, 2 not so much, but I don't believe it's his fault.
Well, that's the fun thing, and we're all going to overreact to the preseason once we see these. What is because that's when we want to watch. We want to see it with our own eyes. And every once in a while you'll see kind of a glimpse, like, ooh, that's kind of exciting. But when we get to this point, when we actually see football, what is your advice here about reacting and not overreacting to whatever news you see out of Atlanta or wherever other team you have questions about?
To me, I think a lot of it is don't overreact. Like, I know we're starved for football, and come August, it's 9 months since we've last seen a meaningful football game, and we're all going to be watching and everything, but don't overreact to a play. What I care about more in preseason is snaps and targets and stuff like that. Like, if you're a wide receiver who's on the field the entire time when the starting quarterback's out there, I'm going to take note of that. But if you're out there for 3 snaps and you end up catching a 50-yard pass or something like that, your ADP is going to rise. But to me, I'm like, okay, you caught one big play. You weren't really out there a whole bunch. So I think you kind of want to watch it as if it's a regular season game and understand that, like, hey, big plays are very random and they're going to happen, but the opportunity is what matters most. And what I always say to people is, If you really want someone, you should be rooting for that player not to do well in the preseason because I'll tell, like, this is way back when, but when Emmanuel Sanders first got to the Broncos, I was all over him. I thought he was a huge sleeper, and then he had a huge preseason, and his ADP jumped like 5 rounds, and it was so much harder to get him. So always root against. If you have a sleeper or someone that you really want, root against him, because if they have a big preseason, now everyone's going to want that player.
Yeah, just a few years ago, Michael, it was a player that, he's having some drops. He dropped another one, and I made that mistake. I'm like, nope, I'm not taking Jamar Chase. Yeah, that was. I don't know if you remember that whole sequence, but it leads me to my next question here, Michael F. Florio, because I think the Bills actually have a dangerous opponent week 1. Like Arizona, sure, they were one of the worst teams last year, but they didn't have Kyler Murray for the majority of the season. And now they have Marvin Harrison Jr., who that is an exciting player that we're all looking forward to seeing here. But the question is, like, at what point does it become a reach here? Or is it not a reach? Like, what are your thoughts about Marvin Harrison Jr.? Because it's rare we get a rookie that can make that sort of impact potentially on your fantasy team.
Yeah, I don't understand at all why this is the Bills' week 1 game. Like, there's zero. I understand it's week 1. There's going to be plenty of juice anyway. But for the matchup, it's like, who really cares about this one in a Bills sense? But I think the Bills should be happy that they get them in week 1 because Marvin Harrison Jr. might not be Marvin Harrison Jr. just yet, but I have him ranked as a top 10 wide receiver right now, and I would take him as a top 15 pick in my drafts, which means late first, early second round, because I truly do believe in his talent. When I was watching him coming into the NFL draft, my player comparison was a taller, maybe even a little bit faster version of Devontae Adams. And now, I will say, I do think he has some holes in his game. He's not the best yak receiver or something like that. But what he does excel at is the 2 best things for fantasy football. He can catch long ball with the best of them, so that is points in chunks right there. And then he should excel in the red zone from day 1, and that's how you put up your points in chunks, with long catches and with touchdowns. So I think him and Trey McBride are probably going to account for at least half of the targets if they stay healthy in Arizona. And to your point about Kyler Murray, I think some people have kind of forgotten just how good Kyler was, because the last 2 years, remember, we saw him tear his ACL 2 years ago, and then last year he didn't come back till the end of the season. And when he did come back, Marquise Brown was in and out of the lineup, Michael Wilson was in and out of the lineup, and those 2 were never fully healthy. So he's playing with scrubs, kind of, not to put it that way. But, yeah, guys who aren't every down receivers in the NFL. And I think he's going to be better this year, and I think the pass catcher can be great. Not only do I like him for fantasy, I think the Cardinals are a team that could surprise a lot of people this year and potentially even make the playoffs.
And we talked earlier in the conversation about Ray Davis and what he could do as a rookie for this Bills offense. Who are some of the other rookies we should be paying attention to? Guys that, Michael, are in good spots that maybe teams are. I remember Achane last year for Miami, and he was a real benefit to that offense until he went down. So who are some of the running backs, wide receivers, that tight ends maybe even that certainly we got to keep tabs on here?
Not as good of a running back class as last year, but Jonathan Brooks in Carolina is the one big one to watch. If he is healthy, coming off the ACL tear, but if he is healthy for training camp and stuff, he could be their week 1 starter and has very high upside. I think Trey Benson in Arizona is a good sleeper because James Conner has yet to play 17 games in his career, so if he misses time, Benson could step up. And look, we all know the big-name receivers like Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, those guys are going to get theirs, but I think Malachi Corley for the Jets is a big sleeper because I don't think the Jets are going to want Aaron Rodgers behind that offensive line all that much. I think there's going to be a lot of short, quick passes, and he is the Yak King for a reason. He could take those passes that are behind the line of scrimmage and turn them into a big play. I also like Jermaine Burton from the Bengals because we've seen Joe Burrow have sustained 3 top 40 wide receivers before for fantasy purposes. Burton is barely a top 70 wide receiver in drafts right now, and we've seen T. Higgins miss 5 games last year. We've seen Jamar Chase missed 5 games the year before that. If either one of those two were to miss time, I think Burton becomes a wide receiver 3 with much higher upside, and you can get him as a last-round pick in drafts right now. So those are some rookies that have definitely not only caught my eye, but that I am targeting in my early drafts right now.
Yeah, the last one for me today here is you're based in L.A., and certainly when we talk L.A. football, I mean, in fantasy football, always exciting with the Rams, right? And look at Puka Nacua, and certainly we'll probably learn about who may be somebody new that Sean McVay has discovered. But what are your thoughts on what Harbaugh is doing out there with the Chargers? How do we kind of assess this? Because from the outside, are we bumping up J.K. Dobbins? Is this going to become kind of a power-running team? And what is this, if that's the case, what does this do to the quarterback, Justin Herbert, and his value?
Yeah, I do expect lots of power running. Jim Harbaugh, when he was in the NFL, had the highest run rate. When he was in college, he was in the top 10 in highest run rate. And then Greg Roman. He's been an OC for 10 years. Every single year, his offense has finished top 10 in rushing attempts. 7 times they've been top 3. So expect plenty of running the ball out of them. And J.K. Dobbins is actually the one that I'm avoiding right now. Gus Edwards is the guy that I'm on because Dobbins is coming off of another severe injury. He's already had the knee injury, now the Achilles. Eventually, these start to pile up and just take away a player's ability. But Gus Edwards still has that trust from Greg Roman. We know he could be a goal line runner. We know he can be a short yards back. So you get him as an RB3 right now is someone I like. Kamani Vidal, the rookie running back, is like a late round dart throw as well. I had been on the side of I'm going to fade Justin Herbert here because I think it's going to be super run heavy. But in drafts right now, he's going outside the top 14, 15 quarterbacks. So I'm like, all right, I wasn't willing to take him as a top 12 guy, but you're going to let me wait and get Justin Herbert there. I'm cool taking a shot on him because I think there's a sneaky chance they let him run more than he ever has in this system. And if that's the case, it'll make up for the lack of passing attempts and then some in fantasy.
That is fascinating stuff. Michael F. Florio, NFL Fantasy, NFL Network, also a show on Sirius XM. Where can we, as we're getting ready here, Michael, where can we kind of consume more of your content as we're heading to a big holiday weekend here shortly?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. NFL.com/fantasy has a bunch. We have our fantasy football podcast that comes out twice a week. We're doing YouTube shows and then Rotoballer Radio on Sirius XM every Sunday afternoon. And if that's still not enough, I have a podcast called Florio's Football Show that I definitely think people should check out, especially Bills fans. I don't ever mean to talk Bills for most of the show, but when the Bills come up, I have fun with it, and I talk a lot of Bills, so I think they'll enjoy it.
We got to get you to Rochester. Like, who do I have to talk to at the NFL Network to make sure that St. John Fisher University is one of your stops as you're going around here this summer, Michael?
I've been talking to them about trying to – if you're listening higher up, please send me to Buffalo because I've been trying to get to some more training camps this year, and that is number one on my list. So I would love to come out there, have some wings, get to hang out with you guys. It would be a great time.
Yeah. Well, we'll introduce you to the Garbage Plate if you're not familiar, Michael. That's our cuisine
not.
here. Oh, that is our cuisine here in Rochester. Like it sounds it sounds terrible. It's the most delicious thing you'll ever eat. Trust me on that.
I look forward to it.
Michael, thanks for your time. Let's do this again sometime over the summer, and hopefully we do get to see you in person out here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, and does the show. And again, we're lucky to have some decent relationships with the fantasy community. And talking with him, that's the interesting thing that James Cook last year, Danny, like in terms of scrimmage yards, meaning receiving plus rushing. Well, number one was Christian McCaffrey, right? Number two was James Cook.
I know I had him in fantasy.
James Cook was very productive, but the biases we had against James Cook, Philadelphia game, the drop pass.
Yeah.
Denver fumble.
Yeah.
Like, so he, in some of the brightest spots, prime time, it wasn't there. But if you follow the Bills the whole year, James Cook is productive. James Cook entering year 3. But the Bills, it's a position that you really need to manage the reps. And James Cook, coming out of Georgia, didn't have a lot of tread on the tires. He wasn't used all that much in Georgia. Now you're bringing in a running back who does come in with a lot. The only running back ever to have 1,000 yards with 3 different schools. Division I, Ray Davis, now on the Buffalo Bills. If he's got that experience, Dan, the Bills aren't using him as a backup every once in a while, right?
I would hope not.
He's like really, and I think that as much as you like James Cook, and that's going to make the Bills offense much better. I'm giving Bills fans reason for optimism because I hear you. Like this year, is the roster better or worse than last year? Nobody's saying it's better. How could it be better? Diggs is gone. Morse is gone. You want to go over the whole list? But things are getting retooled. And that is an area I think that is actually better. I love DeMarco Murray. Don't get me wrong. Ty Johnson, look, he did his fine in his role. But they haven't had that 1-2 punch. I mean, what? Frank Gore and Devin Singletary? Like, this has the potential to be a really good 1-2 punch. Now, I'm saying this, it's a rookie in Davis. But, and people will disagree with me on that, too. I've read it the other way, saying, no, that was not a good pick by the Bills, which, okay, that's something we're all going to be paying attention to. And I know a lot of people are like, run, that's not as exciting. The Bills have made it no secret that they want to be more balanced in the offense to the point where we're making a joke about complementary football.
Now, how do you feel about the Bills' offensive line? Do you feel it's improved? Do you feel it's better?
It can't be improved.
Okay.
That you lost Mitch Morse. You moved on from Mitch Morse. Now, you could say with the concussion history and the age and everything else like that, Connor McGovern, the more people we talk to, he came in knowing that the center position was going to be his destination eventually. Mm-hmm. That's why he came over. So one of the reasons. So Connor McGovern at center, and if that doesn't work out, you've got the rookie Seth Van Pran Granger out of Georgia, which to me that might be the best move if you keep McGovern at guard. A lot of moving pieces. So, Dan, I'm sorry to give you this answer. The honest answer is I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know how McGovern at center is going to work. I don't know, not having David Edwards as your 6th offensive lineman. Now you're starting him. There's a lot. Maybe there's somebody else. Or not. Last year, you had this offensive line, left to right, boom, 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 boom.
Didn't miss a game.
Didn't miss a game.
No.
The continuity. And then they tinkered with it. And part of it was the darn cap. I mean, if it weren't for the cap, are they releasing Mitch Morse? Probably not. I wouldn't have done it. But tough decisions had to be made. So I don't mean to hedge on your. That's one of the questions. If you are a Bills fan, people will gravitate to the wide receivers, and I get it. That is interesting and unknown. The offensive line is interesting and unknown too. We think this is the plan. Is it going to work? Look, if they can get similar to production than last year at a lower price, okay, win-win. It also could be just as simple as this. You have freaking Josh Allen as your quarterback. Yeah. Josh Allen can buy you more time scrambling around and make any offensive line look decent. So it could be as simple as that. Love talking Buffalo Bills football with you, Danny. Love talking Buffalo Bills football with you. Danger is out today, and it's time for happy hour. We have tonight a Game 7 in hockey. It's summer. And it is the one sport where every season's represented. Let's talk some hockey. Let's talk some Buffalo Bills. Let's take your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Danger is out today. The Dandalorian, Dan Drummey, is in. My name is Gene Battaglia here on The Fan, Rochester.
9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Tonight it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton trying to complete the reverse sweep. They are at Florida. Paul Maurice is the head coach of the Panthers.
Yeah, I think the puck drops and momentum will change and over the course of the game, but more so even through the Game 7s. The finality of it. There's this kind of clean slate because both teams have fought real hard to get to the very end.
Sabres preseason schedule is out. 6 games all in the month of September. Home games against Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Detroit. Rochester Red Wings are off tonight. They begin a 6-game set at home against Indianapolis tomorrow. All the action in the majors under the lights tonight, including Cleveland and Baltimore. Subway Series begins tomorrow night at Citi Field. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The hockey season ends tonight with the Panthers or Oilers raising the Stanley Cup. Game 7 in Florida shortly after 8 Eastern.
Now it comes down to one game for it all. So, guys are, fired about this opportunity.
It's the all-time legacy game for Connor McDavid tonight. Connor McDavid!
Mike Danger.
Look at you. You can tell it's trivia night tonight. Gene is just a wealth of knowledge, just a treasure trove of knowledge in preparation for trivia tonight. Are you accepting any team names? Will the Leo Shufflers be in attendance tonight at trivia night?
Gene Battaglia.
It's okay for us as sports fans. You don't have to die on the hill. You can say, hey, I was wrong about this. And this is what makes it entertaining. Now, maybe I'll be wrong again.
Mets closer Edwin Diaz was ejected last night on Sunday Night Baseball. Diaz had illegal substance on his hand, and Diaz is also going to get a 10-game suspension.
This is sweat and rosin.
Scotty Scheffler beat Tom Kim in a playoff to win the Travelers.
We've got a whole group of protesters here.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
The analogy you can make to the what's happening right now in hockey, this is the easy one, was the ALCS. I know Yankee fans will hate me for bringing this up, but Game 3, Yankees at Fenway Park, they win that game 19-8. 19-8, and you're thinking, okay, just one more. Yankees are back in the postseason, and you have to kind of put in the context, Dan. You grew up then. Like, that was the rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
That was the, in all of sports, Yankees, Red Sox. Some will say, hey, it still is today. And then close game, stolen base,
yep.
Red Sox. Okay, no problem. We'll go home and No. Nope. And the same thing in hockey. And I'll admit, like, when I was wrong, and I don't know if you want to admit you were wrong too, but Florida's up 3-0. Their defense, Bobrovsky, and you're like, Edmonton's just too top heavy here. They're just not a team that's designed to win. And then all of a sudden, you're reminded that they have some really elite talent on this team. And tonight is going to be fascinating. My fear for tonight, Dan, is that sometimes the build up to these Game 7s, you're just not going to live up to it. The fact that one of these teams will be gripping and take some chances, and all of a sudden it becomes a 6-1 final, and that's kind of gross, and we're turning the TV off.
I could almost see kind of how Florida won Game 2 happening tonight, where it was 1-0 Edmonton, and then Florida kind of got into their game. And then Rodriguez scored, and it was like a 4-1 final. They kind of settled into their game. I could see that happening, but I'm hoping it's more of like it's 1-1 or scoreless after the first, and it's 1-1 or 2-2 after 2, and then no one scores in the third, and it goes to overtime. That's what I want to see, something like that. And then maybe it goes to overtimes, and then you have, maybe
you're talking about something that all of us, I should say all, but like most of us haven't seen in our lifetime. 1954. Mm-hmm. Overtime Game 7 doesn't happen in the Stanley Cup Final for whatever reason. We've had it now. We're like, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we had a Super Bowl going overtime? Now we've seen it. We're like, yeah, that was really good. Yeah, it was entertaining. I'm glad we had that last year. The first one, maybe not so much. So tonight, yeah, it's an opportunity for the sport of hockey. This is your chance, gentlemen. Deliver on something for the sport, because if people tune in and watch, maybe you get some new fans out of this. From one hockey market that's just a little barely bigger than Rochester, Edmonton, Alberta, and one market that I think by and large doesn't care about hockey, South Florida, but the fans that are going to be there tonight are certainly going to be into it. Our phone number is 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on Twitch. You can listen to us in the free Odyssey app. I don't know which platform our buddy Chris in South Central Kentucky is watching or listening today, but you're always with us, Chris. How are you today, my friend?
Well, I am actually watching today, so you guys are looking pretty good on the video stream. Glad to see you.
Very good. Dan's got his Wings cap on there.
Go Wings.
Yeah. I'm trying to stay cool in this hot heat down here, and it's been pretty hot up there for you guys as well this past week.
Last week we didn't.
Yeah, I mean it was okay. Yeah, I mean, look, Chris, like you could come back up to nice, cool Western New York. I mean, there's always another option for you.
Oh, it may happen at some point, but right now I'm just loving life down here. But I wanted to give a call and say it's a shame that I didn't get to hear you guys on the radio on Friday with the passing of Willie Mays. You know, I love sports. I love sports history. And he was probably one of those guys that you could make an argument for the greatest of all time in any sport. You know, I think the Baseball Writers Association named him like the number 2, only behind Babe Ruth. But to play for 24 seasons, win 12 Golden Glove awards, appear in the All-Star game 24 times, just a remarkable career, and probably nobody other than Jackie Robinson having to overcome so much in his own life to pursue excellence in that sport, to have the career that he did. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and Chris, stay cool, and if I don't talk to you, enjoy the 4th, as I'm already counting down. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you listening. Others thoughts on Willie Mays? Yeah, I think Chris, you said it all, and I'm going to take this in a little different direction because Derek, I call him the pizza guy. I want a better nickname for that. I mean, but Derek, our engineer, brought up a good point, and this was kind of an offshoot of the point Bart Winkler made after Boston won. And Bart Winkler, it's the hallmark of a good take, right? Like, people will get angry, and then you think about it, and it's like, well, like in football, we only count the Super Bowl championships. But you don't count the NFL championships beforehand, and we don't count the AFL. We don't say the Buffalo Bills have 2 championships. You could say that, I suppose. They won 2 AFL, but we don't. We kind of say Super Bowl era. Why is it any different than with basketball when the ABA? Like you're talking about the Rochester Royals era. There were 8 teams, Rochester being one of them. Why are the Celtics with their 18 championships? No, you really only have 5. Derek brought this up. And mind you, like, Derek is also... Is he a Yankee fan or Red Sox?
He's a Yankees fan.
He's a Yankee fan, but he brought this up. Like, with the... I just pulled my thing out there. Hold on.
Live radio here.
Yeah, live radio. There we go. With the Negro Leagues, it's something that we don't talk about. Like, in those times... Well, you want to count all those Yankee championships when some of the best talent, like if you're applying that logic to it too, that was also a point that there's like, hey, you got to kind of bring this up, part of the argument too, that not everybody was invited in back then, which is absolutely 100% true. And like at some point, maybe it'll be a slow day over the summer, but the idea that we actually have now, not my lifetime, but we had the New York Black Yankees here in Rochester for, I think it was 1945, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that's kind of cool that we had a major league team. But that's also part of the argument that, hey, if you won all these baseball World Series titles, but some of the best talent in the world wasn't allowed in, then it's something that we should bring up in the argument there.
It's a fair point.
But Willie Mays, and Chris asked me, can we get baseball writers' thoughts? No. just because I want to honor Willie. I don't want to turn it into a bit here. Like, baseball writer's not going to come out and talk about Willie Mays here. I just thought something to be said for the timing of his passing right before that game at Rickwood Field. Oh my gosh, like that's actually kind of spooky. Second of all, and I retweeted this out over the weekend, I did not watch the game at Rickwood Field. That was on Fox. But a lot of people shared the pregame with Reggie Jackson's thought on this. And you think of, this is like the 1960s and some of the racism he faced, and hearing him talk about it in first person. This is Reggie. This is our guy, like, for some of us growing up. So just some powerful stuff. And I forget who pointed this out. Maybe it was somebody on the show, so forgive me, because I want to give the credit. But baseball does a lot of things wrong, but they seem to get this right. Meaning, hey, we're going to do a game in Williamsport. We're going to do a game on this Army base. We're doing a game at Rickwood Field. Just moving around these specialty games, and it always feels like, all right, kind of came away with something. The first game at Field of Dreams, hey, that was really cool. And then the second year, and they punted. I don't think they're doing it anymore, right? So
I don't think so.
No, so like they kind of, the London thing, that's one of this. It's good for the people in London. It's good to grow the game. That's not one I necessarily circle, but I'm glad that they're kind of going back to some of these. I mean, do we, for example, Dan, get a Major League Baseball game in Cooperstown? I would think so. I think you should too.
You should. I think it's a good way to grow the game.
Like, where else can you put a baseball game where you would say, you know what, that actually feels right?
That's a really good question. I'm blanking at time.
I've always wondered too. Can you go back? There's, once you're done with a facility, you're kind of done. That's it. Would never happen, but could they do like a specialty game at the places that are still standing, the Astrodome or somewhere like that? I don't. Maybe that's. I think the baseball specialty games are way better than, hey, here's our outdoor stadium here on New Year's Day. We're in the National Hockey League. I mean, it just. The one they did in Lake Tahoe, I think, was interesting.
I think, in a way, they're almost kind of better than even like the All-Star games. Like, maybe do away with like the All-Star game festivities and just do more of these kind of creative baseball games or games out somewhere else.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there. And in our business, we call it evergreen. And something that's evergreen now is the All-Star games. They've passed us by.
Yeah,
Why do
they're boring.
They're boring. The ratings year over year, down, down, down. I can already tell you what's going to happen. I love baseball. Where's the All-Star game? Oh, it's in Texas. Okay, I was drawing a blank. It's at the new stadium down there for the Texas Rangers. It'll be background noise on a weeknight in July. I'll watch the Home Run Derby. Yeah. And Aaron Judge, by the way, is not going to do it, and good for him.
How about Shohei? Is he going to be there?
I don't know.
He's been mashing the last couple days.
So right. So like we'll watch the Home Run Derby, but the All-Star games, just the ratings go down because back then, Dan, it was, hey, you've heard about Dave Winfield of the San Diego Padres, and here he is. Like, oh, okay. Like, well, now, like, what player are you being exposed to for the first time? All-Star games are nothing more than the glad hand sponsors and charge big ticket prices and give your players a little bit of a break. That's really all it is. It's a sponsor-driven event these days that really for the fans, not so much. And it's not a baseball thing. It's every sport. Yeah, and every sport.
And do the players even want to be there?
No. Who was the guy from the Seattle Kraken? I'd have to look that up. We pulled the audio one time where their head coach was a Hacksaw. I can't remember who the guy that got fired in Seattle. Well, they bring him in, and they're sitting him down. They're like, hey, we want to let you know of what we were planning over the All-Star. Well, my girlfriend and I were going to go to San Diego. You got to change your plans. You're going to Toronto for the All-Star game.
Great.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm honored. Like, it's
Like Ovechkin, he got suspended. He got fined because he didn't want to go to an All-Star game one year because he doesn't care.
No.
No one cares anymore.
No, Tom Brady, it's funny, the number of Pro Bowls he went to.
Was he played in 2?
Yeah, something silly like that. So, yes, where baseball, and then don't get me started. The one thing baseball that okay, we're going to come out with these stupid looking uniforms.
Oh, yeah.
That was always the cool thing. You saw all the different uniforms on display and everything. But Rob Manfred, because he's not really a baseball fan at heart, he's just a lawyer who got into this business, and Dan, you and I are not going to win that. If Nike or whoever is willing to write a check, then we're going to watch whatever.
It's all the jerseys though, because NHL's the same way, and these two sponsors, they're just ruining these uniforms. So I don't know what you do anymore.
We got Game 7 tonight. We got shots coming up here in the sports bar, and I was thinking, do I save this story tomorrow for Danger? Danger will be back tomorrow, but I thought, no, I got to pass this along. Bill Belichick.
Oh yeah,
and his girlfriend, who is closer to being a girl than his age, which, her ex-boyfriend is speaking. There's a couple interesting facts about this. And look, Bill, you put yourself in the headlines by picking this relationship, buddy. You could have kept it quiet. We got time for your calls, just like Chris called in at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. It's the Sports Bar here on the Fan, Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Rochester Sports Update.
Hockey, Game 7. It's the last game of the season tonight. Stanley Cup Final, Edmonton at Florida. Chris Knobloch is the head coach of Edmonton.
I don't think our approach has changed at all. 10 days ago, we talked about when we're down 3-0, just one day at a time, enjoy the process. We're enjoying the process. We're enjoying where we are right now. We got a confident group.
Sabres preseason schedule is out. 6 games, all in September. Home games are against Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Detroit. Rochester Red Wings off tonight, as they usually are on a Monday. They begin a 6-game set at home tomorrow against Indianapolis. Major League Baseball, everything is under the lights tonight, including Cleveland and Baltimore. Mets and Yankees renew the Subway Series tomorrow night at Citi Field. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey is your home for all the audio that matters to you. Download the Odyssey app today to listen to the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
You know, Edmonton has outscored Florida 18-5. Welcome back, by the way, to the Sports Bar. Gene Battaglia with you. Mike Danger will be back tomorrow. Dan DeLorean is here. Edmonton 18-5 in the last 3 games. I mean, it hasn't been like great hockey these last 3 games either, but this forces the Game 7. This nugget courtesy of Steve Bradley. Home teams all-time in the Stanley Cup Final in Game 7, 12-5. But the road team has won the last 3, including the St. Louis Blues in Boston back in 2019. This just might be Connor McDavid's time. Michael Jordan won his first championship at 27. LeBron James won his first championship at 27. Connor McDavid is also 27. One note for Florida. Kyle Pozo going in for Nick Cousins, 8 o'clock tonight on ABC.
I don't think it matters. I'm hoping it's a close game. I want to see tied after first, tied after this. We could be scoreless. Let's have scoreless the entire game, and then let's have double overtime with like 3 minutes to go in overtime, and then someone scores.
True or false? Hockey people want Edmonton to win tonight because we want to cheer for greatness.
I could see that.
Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like anybody is like, oh, I want the U.S. team over the Canadian team. I'm sure there are people out there like that.
I prefer Florida, but I have some interest that would help out my franchise in terms of like draft picks. I also have some family friends who are from Florida who would cheer for them, so I'd be happy for them. But I don't really.
Yeah, I don't know of any Edmonton transplants living in Rochester. Put it that way.
I can't.
Yeah, nobody from here goes there. From Major League Baseball last night.
Well, you'll never believe this. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning. The Mets are up 5-2. Edwin Diaz coming on, and the umpires did their usual check of the glove for any kind of sticky stuff. And Edwin Diaz has just been caught with whatever it is that's stuck to his glove in his hands, and he's been ejected.
That is the Mets radio network, and Diaz, he's got an excuse.
I just say I use the same thing always. I rock rosin, sweat, and I put my hand on the dirt a little bit because I need to have some grip on the ball. So that's why I was explaining to them, but they said it was too much thick. I understood, but at the end of the day, I was using rock rosin, sweat, and put my hand on the dirt.
Well, okay, so he's tossed. He's now looking at a 10-game suspension, which he will not appeal, which you never win the appeal. And the thing is, Dan, folks who didn't know, like when you're suspended, it's not like they can call up anybody from Syracuse. You lose that roster spot. So not a good season for Edwin Diaz. Trumpets, look, 7 saves, 4.70 ERA. This coming off the torn ACL. Mets host the Yankees tomorrow night. That's going to be Garrett Cole on the mound for the Bombers, making his second major league start this season.
That does not sound good for the Mets.
No, but more on the Yankees, who now have lost 3 straight series, and now Giancarlo Stanton is going to be who knows how long he's going to be left hamstring strain. So the Yankees, don't get excited here. They picked up former Met J.D. Davis in a trade with Oakland, and by trade, that's really being loose there. He had been designated for assignment. J.D. Davis has already been cut twice this year, previously let go by Giants. So, man, if you're getting released by the A's, well, I haven't seen J.D. Davis bat, by the way, since he left the Mets. Does he still You want to talk about somebody with OCD at the plate with the gloves all the time, adjust.
Yeah, it's got to be a big transition for him.
Yeah, I mean, with the pitch clock and everything, like that is going to be like Yankee fans, that might drive you nuts.
I think this is probably what Yankee fans need. You need to have a team in the Mets who's not very good. This is just the medicine they need, and then they'll feel better because then they'll beat the Mets, and then I'm not sure who they play. They'll be fine.
They'll be fine. 40-year-old Max Scherzer looked good. He took a no-hitter in the 5th, of course, pitch count, but only needed 57 pitches in 5 innings. That's 5 innings enough to get the win over Kansas City. Texas playing in Milwaukee tonight. The defending world champs are 3 games under 500. And look, you can look at it as one or two ways. You could say this is terrible for the sport, meaning, wait a second. Like, I look at Texas, I look at the team, I look at their lineup, and they're getting Scherzer back. They may get DeGrom back in August, and maybe he doesn't have to be 7-8 inning Jacob DeGrom, but can you imagine if he gives you anything whatsoever for Texas? They can be a playoff team, and they won last year. Is that really good for a sport that we're looking at this like 500-ish teams? And I look at Arizona. I look at Arizona now. I'm like, how did that team get to the World Series?
They got hot at the right time.
That's it.
So you wouldn't want to see the Mets hover around 500 and then sneak in and then get hot and maybe find themselves in the Fall Classic?
I told you back in, I told everybody, but nobody listens to me. Like back in March, I said I'm a new Met fan because I saw where this was going. And I'm not going to get overly excited. It was fun for Grimace, and they won last night. And everything's kind of fun, but we find alternate ways of fun. So that's what Grimace is.
They were interviewing Pete Alonso on the field and said, I'd like to hang out with Grimace sometime. And I'm like, seriously? Really? And then they were talking to Alvarez about they have some Oh My God song that's been working. I don't know what. I've never heard of the song, but I don't know.
Okay. 6 protesters got onto the. Who said golf was boring? Golf is not when you have people storming the 18th green this way. While Scotty Scheffler was playing through, cops got there relatively quickly. They were climate protesters. These knuckleheads charged with first-degree criminal mischief, first-degree criminal trespass, and breach of peace. Both all released after posting $5,000 bond. They're going to go back to court on July 1st. Scheffler beat Tom Kim in a playoff to win his 6th event this season. That's the most since Tiger did it back in 2009, which that's remarkable. Dan.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. Former Nets head coach Kenny Atkinson is the new head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Atkinson was an assistant with Golden State last year. Finally, if you still cannot wrap your mind around the fact that 72-year-old Bill Belichick is dating a 24-year-old, well, there is someone that is coming to the defense of Jordan Hudson. That's her ex-boyfriend, and her ex-boyfriend wants you to know that he wants her to be happy, says Jordan L. Zuckerman. Quote, she is wise beyond her years, much more than any 20-something I've ever met in my life. The narrative should be about her character, and this is not fair to her. Okay, ready for the kicker? Ex-boyfriend Jordan L. Zuckerman is 64. He said she has a type, Dan.
Oh, jeez.
And here's the other thing, too. Like, oh, wait, I went to his LinkedIn page.
He has a LinkedIn page, okay.
Yeah, he's wealthy. He runs retirement communities on Cape Cod. On Cape Cod.
Oh, my God.
On Cape Cod. So she went from dating the executive who sets up these senior living homes, communities, and now, all right, well, 64, that's too young for me. I'm going to go over to Bill Belichick at 72.
No. Jeez.
See, the thing, there's so much here. Do I pin it on her or pin it on him? I don't pin any of this on her whatsoever. You're Bill Belichick. You should have all sorts of options. And when I brought this up to you, Danny, what the heck the 72-year-old Bill Belichick and 24-year-old Jordan, what do they talk about?
No idea.
What do they talk about?
No idea. They can't have anything in common.
No. Okay, so she might be book smart.
Is she a football fan?
I probably, from Bill's standpoint, it's well, she was a cheerleader, so she's got to know something about the game, right?
Yeah, but I just don't see it. I don't understand. And you always see those stories. Oh, age is just a number. Yeah, I don't know in this scenario.
Well, it's well, I'd have to read up on the psychology of the May-December romance because I think this would kind of fit into this.
I think they're both at fault. Because, I mean, it almost sounds like this is something that she's...
Well, what is her agenda? But you're Bill. Are you blinded by this? I'm just wondering, you have... When you want to talk to somebody on your level...
Yeah. Who's on Bill Belichick's level with his age?
Well, maybe a woman in her 40s or 50s. I feel like they're getting slighted here. I would think somebody who is accomplished in their career. There's just so much that's weird about this. Here's another weird thing too. And this goes back to November, and we saw this, and we're like, well, that's kind of strange. Like, at Fordham University, Dan, we called it, and in a lot of places, we called it the Walk of Shame.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah, the Walk of Shame. And Bill Belichick, this is in November. So think about how, like, November temperatures are, but you're also in the middle of the ocean, okay, on Nantucket Island.
Yeah.
So there's Bill Belichick caught on a doorbell cam, shirtless, at 5 a.m. doing the Walk of Shame. Okay, question number one, and these are the questions we should have asked way back when. How did this doorbell cam footage get out there? Who put it out there? What was the agenda behind it?
Did she put it out there?
Did she put it out there? Was it Dad who put it out there? Because you can't tell me that Jordan Hudson, at 24 years old, owns this 7-figure property on.
It's like an apartment, something.
Maybe, right? Yeah,
roommates.
Maybe you're right. Or is it just a nearby doorbell cam that's just adjacent to it and be like, look who this is, and then they send it out. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to cut Bill some slack there.
Could it be like an X?
Yeah. Oh, maybe you're talking about Jordan L. Zuckerman. I like how people have to use their middle initial too. Like, not to be confused with Jordan P. Zuckerman. I'm Jordan L. Zuckerman.
Jeez.
Not related to Amanda Zuckerman.
Oh, boy.
Dated reference there. We've got time for your calls. In fact, we have lots of time for your calls. 866-4FAN. 866-4326. Last call is next for you here on this Monday afternoon here in our favorite city, Rochester. Give us a call here. My name is Gene Battaglia, Dan DeLorean, Dan Drummy, also with us today here on The Fan, Rochester.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with
She's a former cheerleader, kind of lame. Actually, whatever.
She's a current cheerleader.
She studied philosophy at, get this, Bridgewater State University. Like, she's Einstein. Come on. Teddy Bridgewater State University. What the heck is
Teddy Bridgewater.
What is Bridgewater State University? That's where she studied philosophy?
All right, Dartmouth. Don't be a snob about it.
She is as phony as they come. And here's the ultimate indictment of her. She's dating Bill Belichick. What else do we need to know? I mean,
And the other guy was also in his 60s.
Yeah, forget it. I don't even care who the other guy is. She's dating the biggest sourpuss in the history of public life.
Yes, you hear them every morning, Maggie and Perloff. As look, it's far for me to say Perloff wrong here, but I don't know if you necessarily fault a 24-year-old for dating the 72-year-old.
No.
I mean, also,
motive.
to answer his question, Bridgewater State is a Division III college. Like, I actually call the game. Fisher played Bridgewater. Fisher football won. This was a few years ago, and we were supposed to go to Bridgewater, except the year was 2020, and never made it out there. So it's actually, wait, this is all making sense now. It's like a half hour from Foxborough. So it just seems...
The dots are connecting.
Yeah, it seems like maybe she might be a little bit of a social climber, kind of. I don't listen to any song from the 70s or 80s or yacht rock or whatever. Love makes you do silly things. And also, I'm going to say this too. NFL coaches lead such a narrow, tunneled life that it's not the real world. Okay, it's not about the real world isn't watching tape every night and evaluating draft prospects and coming up with a game plan. Like, when you want to be the best NFL coach you can, you're leading this incredibly imbalanced life, and part of that might be your social skills might kind of be off just a little bit. Look, I think Sean McDermott has done a great job as Buffalo Bills head coach. Nobody can dispute that. They haven't gotten to where they really want to go, but look where the franchise was. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also very embarrassing that he didn't have the social kind of gene in the head. Just something would say, no, this isn't a good example to talk about leadership and the terrorist of 9/11.
No.
Tunnel life. Like, if you were dealing with people outside of football and outside of, different, that's why, again, I don't want to get all preachy here and everything, but it's important to meet different people from different walks of life.
Yes.
And meet strangers and make different, visit different places, talk to different people. And it's a good thing. And if you're Bill Belichick, did he really have in his life an extensive dating resume? He had the first wife. Her name was Debbie.
Yep.
Okay, and that was in Cleveland. And I don't know what happened there, but shocking. A lot of coaches end up divorced. That happens a lot. And then girlfriend number 2, Linda, who we got to know because she made herself readily available for the cameras or Nantucket Magazine, whatever it was. They never pulled the trigger, but outside of those two, and did Bill Belichick ever have the experience to say, "Oh, this really isn't it"? Like, what is Bill Belichick? Has he ever had a life outside of football?
I don't think so.
And is this the first time? See, to me, that's the story here. It's not about the 24-year-old, because you know what? Whether a guy or girl, there's probably people that are opportunists like that, and I don't know her, and I don't think it's fair. It's fun to goof on, but she's the 24-year-old. You kind of cut her.
Yeah, but how old was her previous guy she was with?
64.
Okay.
So that would be another thing that Bill Belichick, okay, let's just say, hey, maybe there's something here. Why don't we go to dinner and talk this through? And he goes to dinner. And nobody's paying attention because they probably think, oh, that's Bill's daughter or his niece or something. They're not even thinking that. So tell me about the last relationship. Oh, yes, yeah, Jordan. Oh, Jordan, thinking that's a young name. he runs these retirement communities on Cape Cod, and then if you're doing your homework, like that, wait, he's 64. I said that's like that's the part again. I don't get it. I don't get the common ground. No, it doesn't make any sense
because we've heard before. And coaches are strange cats, like you just said. Like I don't think Belichick really has much of a social life. It's get up and just football. I want to win everything, and I don't think he has a life outside. Like, what did he do with his previous girlfriend? Like, what were they doing?
I think he would just go for a month, and this would be the month. The
and
downtime.
He goes back to his dungeon and just watch tape.
You go to we watch tape, but was he watching tape on Nantucket? Probably. Probably. The funny thing is too, and maybe I'm completely off on this because I've heard from other people that Bill Belichick, if you get him away from football, he can be very charming and very engaging. That's another thing that, like, you're not talking about somebody that is just a complete fool when it comes to social skills. Like, apparently he can talk about things outside of football.
So maybe we're blowing this out of proportion. It's a nothing.
Maybe she is just really gifted, or maybe what they call an old soul. Like the old soul who likes to read books and talk about philosophy at Bridgewater State University.
Teddy Bridgewater.
What? By the way, like, what do you think the folks at Bridgewater State, like, normally you want to get your school in the news and everything, notoriety. Like, who would be the most famous alums? Okay.
Oh, jeez.
I'm going to Google this, right? Most famous alums, Bridgewater State. And then I'll ask you the question
I have no clue. This is
okay. I don't recognize any of these. 27 notable. Jeffrey Donovan. Robert Stack. Okay, he was on the Untouchables. Is she more? Yeah, no. Like today in this day and age, probably no. All these names I don't recognize. Yeah. So you could say she's the most famous alum today of Bridgewater State University. Tomorrow we will have Paul Hamilton, WGR, joining us as he's going out to Vegas for the draft later in the week. So Danger will be back tomorrow. You say he bought a collectible. I say he did not.
All right, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Excitement tomorrow. Appreciate you listening today here on the Fan Rochester.
It's that time again.